Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chia, and it's that time of the month again where we go over all the books I read. So welcome to my September monthly wrap-up. I had a mixture of different books that I read this month. I was slowly trying to get into my fall reads. I had a few new favorites as well as some, average reads and one disappointment. So let's get started. As usual, let's get started with my stats. I'm currently filming this on September 30th, so I doubt I'm going to finish another book by midnight tonight. So I decided to just film my wrap up today. Read a total of 9 books, 8 physical and 1 was the e-arc, and I read a total of 4,108 pages this month. My average rating was 4.14 stars, and also my different genres consisted of 5 fantasy romances, 1 dark academia, 1 adult dystopian, 1 science fiction, and 1 young adult dystopian. I had a mixture of different reads this month because I was, like I said, getting to my fall read. So let's get started with the first books that I read. The first 2 books that I read were The Curse of Ophelia and also The Shards of Ophelia. It's a part of the same series. There are 5 books in this series, and it's a fantasy romance, and also it's a completed series. I think it's like 5 full novels, and I think there's like 2 novellas in this as well. I heard about this book from Bailey Reads, or Bailey Latham, here on YouTube, and she and I have similar tastes, and this is one of her favorite fantasy romances. And this follows a character named Ophelia, and she is a part of the Mystique Warriors, and she has been grieving for the past 2 years because the love of her life went missing. There is sort of like this trial that every single one of these young characters have to go through when they turn of age, like 18, and they have to go on this journey to get their full powers and their full abilities and everything, because they are descended from angels, and they are the ones who are basically destined to be the warriors of their nation, and they're part of like different clans. They go on this like sort of adventure where they try to solve like a mystery that's happening in their village, and she goes with a bunch of her friends, and then like friends who've like helped her along the way the past few years that she's known since she was a child. And I gave this book a 3.75. It follows a character who is sort of like coming to terms of the grief and everything when she felt like every single person in her life has given up hope on trying to help find her love, and they think that he's dead and everything. She's the only one who thinks that he's still alive. And then when she's on this adventure, she knows some connections to sort of like his disappearance as well. I gave this a 3.75 because nothing really happens in this. I felt that it was just a sort of adventure that they go on. They go on this like trek where they're exploring different stuff of the world, and they uncover this sort of like big twist at the end, kind of upends their whole entire world. And the way this ended though, it felt kind of wrapped up, and I found out the author Nicole Platania didn't think that the rest of the series would be picked up, so she felt she should like give sort of a open-ended ending for this book, so that leaves her open to write more books in the series. But she of course ended up getting picked up and wrote the whole entire series, but I just didn't feel connection to the world and everything. I did like the lore of them being connected to the angels and being basically descended from the angels because of their Mystique Warrior blessings and everything. And then I did move on to the second book, and this book just follows more of them continuing on from the twist at the end when they left it off. They're dealing with a lot of things. There's a lot of like mental health rep in this book. There's like following a character who goes through a lot of PTSD, and also it becomes like a multi-POV. There's only like one more POV introduced, but I heard that the rest of the series start introducing more POVs in this. This one I liked more than the first one. I felt like a lot more stuff happened in this book compared to the first one. It was a lot more continuance of the plot rather than like just, them going on an adventure. And also Ophelia is growing into a new role that she's gotten in this book. The thing that I have a problem with this series is that I just don't feel connected to any of the characters in here. I just feel like I'm so disconnected from them that I'm just observing what they do in the story rather than connecting with them. And I'm hesitant to continue with the series, even though like I'm liking where the plot is going, and I'm liking the whole entire story of them being connected to angels, and there's also like angels who come to visit the female main character as well, but I just don't feel connected, so I'm not in a rush to finish the series necessarily. I am interested to see what happens in the rest of the series, maybe in the third book, I will feel connected more. But I did give this one a 4 stars. Like I said, I did enjoy it more than the first book. So I will see if I continue with the series or not. The next 2 books I picked up are a part of the same series, and the first book is The Wolf King. I've been hearing this around all over booktube. A lot of people are reading this, especially right now since like it's getting to more of the fall time. This follows a character named Aurora. She is the princess of the Southland Kingdom. In this kingdom, they are at war with the wolf shifters. Whenever they have a wolf shifter as prisoner, they put them into this like sort of fighting pit underground, and so she gets taken to this fighting pit to watch like these shifters fight because these kingdom like bets on them and everything. And so she sees one wolf shifter going against like a younger wolf shifter, so she stands up for him. And so she protects the kid who is trying to fight. Later on that night, the wolf shifter kind of actually ends up kidnapping her, but she doesn't go unwillingly. She kind of wants to go because she is betrothed to a very cruel man who is sort of like the advisor or whatever to her father, and she's not close to her dad at all. He's kind of like abusive to her, and so she goes off into the wolf shifter kingdom. It's her enemy kingdom, and she ends up falling for a wolf shifter and interacting with other characters in this kingdom as well. And so it's set in sort of like a Scottish, rainy, dark, sort of Outlander vibes. I've never watched Outlander, but the main character I heard online is giving Jamie Fraser vibes because he's sort of like the golden retriever MMC. But there is another character in here that I like as well that we get introduced to also, and I went on to give this the 4 stars. I went straight into the second book, which is The Night Prince, and this is the sequel. It's going to be a trilogy. The third one is not out yet. It's not going to come out till next year, and it's traditionally picked up for both these books, so they're getting reprinted. I think the first one is getting reprinted this month, and the second one, The Night Prince, is coming out in December, and this was by far my favorite. It features more of my favorite character in this book. I am rooting more for this character, and he and Aurora are like enemies. They don't like each other whatsoever, and it leaves off on such a huge cliffhanger. And I gave this book 5 stars. They're both so good. I binged both of these in less than 24 hours each. That's how bingeable this writing is. The chapters are super short, and there's always something going on, and you can't help but binge this whole entire series. I highly recommend picking these up, especially since it's fall rolling around, and also we don't have to wait that long for the third book to come out. And I got so heavily addicted to these 2 books. It's like giving Twilight, except if she stayed with like the wolf shifters and everything, and also she grows on you a bit. In the first one she's really naive, but in the second one she starts growing more into her own, and she starts becoming a bigger part of the story. And then also there's a sort of like love triangle going on too, but I already know which character I'm rooting for, and I am dying for the last book because I just want to know what happens to these characters. Lauren, if you're watching this, do not hurt my babies, let them be happy. But yes, highly recommend. These 2 were like 2 of my favorites this month. The next book I picked up was Sovereign of Earth by Sarah Hawley. This follows a character named Kenna, and she is a part of a town that worships fairies. And every 5 years there are 4 females chosen to be a sort of like a sacrifice to the fairies, and there's no evidence whatsoever if they're actually the fairy land is like real and everything. And Kenna is known to go into the bog, which is like the area that they have to cross over in order to get to the fairy land, and she goes into this bog to hunt for treasures that she can sell because she is the only one who's left in her family. She lives by herself, and she has a best friend who is unfortunately chosen to be one of the sacrifices to the fairies. And in order to help out her friend, she ends up going into the bog to lead them out of the area. Prior to leading them out, she finds like a sentient dagger, and it kind of like forms like a cuff around her arm and protects her while she kind of gets into the fairyland. And when she gets to the fairyland, she ends up becoming like a servant to the Earth House, and so she has to help the princess of the Earth House get over these trials. The only way the young Earth princess will be able to get her full powers is to go through these trials and be recognized as worthy. And I love the character in this. She's so smart. She knows how to strategize and think, and she knows how to basically hold herself so that she can take revenge later on the people who are against her. This kind of like fairy kingdom is very cruel prince coded. It's very similar to that because they are cruel, they are mean. There's so many dark stuff that happens in this book. There's a bunch of like torture and everything, so check your trigger warnings. The sequel of this book actually just came out today on the day that I'm filming this, December 30th. I cannot wait to get my hands on the second one because it left off on such a huge cliffhanger. So highly recommend picking this up. And I gave this book a 4.25. I couldn't quite give it 5 stars because it did take me a while to get through this book. I think it took me about a month and a half to get through this because I was reading a lot of other things in the middle of this, and also also it did take a little bit for the action to start. I felt like the first half of the book was just kind of repetitive because it was just going through her daily routine while she's trying to get used to the fairy world and also trying to figure out how to get through these trials. So it was slow for a little bit for the first 50%, but once you get past that, it starts getting like more action, a lot more things happening, and she does have like a romance in this, but we don't know who she's gonna end up with at the end, and I'm so excited to get into the next book. I thought it was gonna be a duology, but I think there's gonna be more than 2 books in this. I think it's a trilogy. I'm hoping it's a trilogy, so I'm not waiting too long for this whole entire series to finish. But if you like the Cruel Fae from Cruel Prince, and also you like really good unique trials and also female friendships, which is like what it mainly focuses on in this book, highly recommend picking this up. It's like elemental powers and everything. I love how the underworld of the fairy world is described in here and how there's like different houses so that represents each like element in this world. So highly recommend picking this up if you're looking for like a darker fairy read. The next book I picked up was a part of my fall like reads, which I've been waiting to pick up since last year, is Nocticadia by Carrie Lake. This follows a character named Lilia. She unfortunately loses her mom from a sort of like disease. When her mom passes away, she sees like worms coming out of her mom, but she is told that her mom committed suicide, but she just remembers the night differently. So she goes on and she lives with her stepdad and everything, and she ends up getting accepted into this academy called Dracada University. She gets like a full ride and everything, where she writes about the condition that her mom was in, and I guess once the professor reads her paper, he submits it to Dracada University. She finds out that the university is studying the exact disease that her mom died from. So she gets a full ride first semester and she goes off to live over in Dracada. And it's like giving like dark gothic Harry Potter vibes of the school, and also she ends up meeting with a professor named Professor Devrick Bramwell, or aka Dr. Death, and he is like dark, broody, he's grumpy, and then he ends up being the main person who is in charge of the study that she wants to know more about her mom's disease. And in order to know more about this, she has to get into his good graces. And it's a dark academia, it's very spicy, and I gave this book a 4 stars. The main reason why I couldn't give it more than a 4 stars is because it is a slow burn. There's nothing really that really happens between them besides like a few conversations for like 60% of the book. But the moment they do start getting into like the spiciness, it just gets spicy super fast. With my slow burns, I like a gradual lead up to a lot of like romantic scenes. I don't like how it goes from 0 to 100 really fast, but the slow burn is so good in here, and I love their little interactions with each other. And also the ending kind of like confused me a little bit because there's so much stuff that gets thrown in at the end. But if you're looking for like a dark academia book that is perfect for fall spooky season, pick this up. Just be aware there is some body horror in here. I thought I couldn't handle it at first. When I started reading it, I thought I was gonna get grossed out because there are a lot of talk of body horror, especially from Professor Devrick's like point of view. He does a lot of autopsies on cadavers because part of his study, but it was actually not that bad. It was kind of only in his point of view, and also there's a perfect balance between the two, and I love the vibes in here, and I absolutely can't wait to read more of Carrie Lake's books, so highly recommend. And then the next book I picked up was an e-arc that I got approved by from NetGalley, and it's called To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast. This is a dystopian romance novel, another book that's a dystopian romance. This follows a character named Raven. She lives in a world where everyone's regulated by the government, and also she has to take care of her little brother, and she is a known bounty hunter. She's meant to collect like the people who have bounties on their heads, and she's sort of like an enemy of her people because she turns people in, but that's the only way she knows how to make money because it's just her and her little brother left. Well, unfortunately, one day her brother gets taken to jail, and so she has to infiltrate into this prison, and it's called Unlock Prison. And in this particular jail, they are made to be a game where they are taken to this sort of like field or like open area where wealthy people pay to choose who they want to go into these games, and then they hunt them down and sort of like a hunting things. I was really intrigued by that because I never kind of like heard a story of that before. I was so disappointed by this. It's a debut novel by the author, and it's not coming out till March, and I was lucky to get a e-arc of it, so I was so excited to read it. It was just a lot of like insta-lust between the two main characters. They kind of like sort of meet at first in a bar before she gets taken to the prison. Once she gets to the prison, she finds out that he's sort of like a guard there or like an important figure, and she ends up sort of forming a relationship with him, or like they start having physical attraction to each other really fast. Like, I don't even know the reason why he started liking her in the first place. At first when they meet, they just want to hook up really fast. I just didn't like it. I thought the story was so good. It's just that it was so executed really poorly. It focused way too much on their relationship. I much prefer focusing on the side characters because there were so many interesting side characters, and there was sort of like a lead up to a found family, but we barely got any of it because of the fact that it was focused on this insta-lust relationship. And also Raven, I felt like she barely did anything in her own book. It was more of the side characters like forming plans and everything. She was just there to facilitate. That's it. This prison is meant to be like one of the most high security prisons, and they were able to sneak around really easily for being such a high security prison, and they were always having like these discreet meetings trying to figure out ways to like break out of jail. And I just couldn't understand what was going on majority of the time because I was just so flabbergasted at how inconsistent the story was, and also how inconsistent the narrative was. The female character got herself into a lot of scrapes where she had to be rescued for someone who was a very well-known bounty hunter who can fight. So I just thought it was like not for me, and I don't think I'll be continuing on with the series. I gave this a 2.75 stars, unfortunately, and I wish it was executed better. So maybe you'll like it better than I did. Unfortunately, that was my disappointing read of this month. The second to last book that I read in September was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is one of my most anticipated reads because I've been thinking about reading it for a while. I do have a vlog that I'm currently filming right now that will get more into this, that will probably be posted in the next like couple of weeks or so I will be deep diving into it more. This follows a character who wakes up with amnesia, doesn't know where he is, he doesn't know what's going on, and he is only alone with a robot. He realizes soon that he is sort of like on a spaceship that is headed to a mission. It is told through different memories that he has what the mission is and what the whole entire point of the story is. I don't want to get too much into it because I feel like everyone should go into this blind, because I went into it blind and I was so pleasantly surprised with the story, and I already know this is going to be one of my favorite books of this year because of how it was told. I was very hesitant to pick this up because it's not a typical genre that I pick up. It's full of science fiction. There's a lot of like astronomy and physics talks in here, and also microbiology talk in here as well, because you have to go through the process of these characters trying to solve a mission in space and trying to find scientific ways to fix it. And I seriously thought I wouldn't get it, but I did. The story was so easily digestible the way Andy Weir writes. It doesn't feel like unapproachable or anything, and it's easily able to be understood. And also, if you have a hard time trying to get into it because of like a lot of the science talk here, I highly recommend the audiobook. The audiobook is narrated by Ray Porter. He is so amazing. He is narrating for his life in this book because he does a little voice for each of the different characters, and there's a character in here that I absolutely love that I will like go to war for, and it suffices to say this book was a 6-star read, and I cannot wait for the movie to come out next year. If you have not watched a trailer and you are planning to read this book, I highly recommend reading the book first before watching the trailer. I watched it yesterday after finishing this book, and there's so many big spoilers in that trailer, but I highly recommend. It's going to be a 6-star read. I'm going to be thinking about these characters over and over, and I cannot wait to re-listen to the audiobook and also reread this book. And the movie, I already know it's going to be amazing. Highly recommend. And the last book that I finished this month was Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. Everyone knows what this is already. It's a young adult dystopian novel, follows the character Katniss. I decided to reread it because I am doing a reread of the Hunger Games in another future video that I'm doing as well, because I have yet to read Sunrise on the Reaping and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and I knew I wanted to reread the trilogy first before getting into that, because I know there's a lot of Easter eggs that connect to the trilogy. But rereading this brought so much nostalgia back, and it made me remember a lot of stuff that I forgot, and I ended up giving this a 4 stars because I know there are much stronger books in the series, but overall it's a 5-star trilogy for me, and I am so excited that I'm rereading it. It just brought me back to like 15 years ago when I first picked up this book. So I highly recommend. Of course, it's one of my favorite trilogies of all time. So yes, that was the last book I read in the month of September. Let me know what you read in the month of September. Are you getting to your fall reads? Are you having like new favorites? Because I am so grateful that I found some new favorites this month, and I can't wait to see what the rest of the year brings. As always, thank you for watching. If you want more videos like this, like and subscribe. It really does help my channel a lot, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Bye!